Okay, what we have here is a 3D model of Mt Ararat. Mt Ararat is just under 17,000 feet above sea level at the top. And this area is 10 miles by 10 miles square. This is the Armenian side of the mountain. Over on this side is the Turkish side of Mt Ararat. And to the south here, Iraq borders come up this direction. Then right in through here is the Iranian portion of the borders. A lot of people are saying that they have made discoveries of Noah's Ark, and many times they have been over on the Turkish side. And then some more recently, just about 30 miles from the peak, have suggested that they have found something that they think is Noah's Ark. According to the ancient documents, this is not where the Noah's Ark is located. And the British curator, Irving Finkel, had made a comment in one of his lectures that he didn't know why everybody was going over to these areas because the ancient documents point to other areas. So what we want to talk about now is what is called the Babylonian Map of the world. This is the oldest map that has been discovered to date. When this was discovered, this little piece of the map was missing. And it was in the British Museum for many years. And they didn't know exactly what it said because this key piece was missing from it. Irving Finkel had a student that took one of his cuneiform classes, and then she was retired and she volunteered at the museum cataloging pieces that had not yet been cataloged, and she recognized that this piece looked familiar, contacted Mr. Finkel, and they went and they put the piece into the map, and when they put it in, they couldn't get it out. There is a YouTube video where Mr. Finkel discusses this, and you could go on to YouTube and find that, and it's very interesting. When they put this in, it solved a lot of this puzzle here, because right here is the Babylonian name for Mount Ararat, which is Urartu. And on the backside, Irving Finkel recognized that it was discussing the vessel that Noah's Ark is referred to in ancient Babylonian documents. So looking at that, then knowing that that is Mount Ararat, what is this saying? Well, it's saying that near the area of Ararat, between the two bitter seas, is where the vessel landed. If you look on a map, and you go on Google Maps and you search, and you look south of Mount Ararat, about 90 miles south, there are 2 of the 4 largest salt lakes in the world. The Iranian side is actually the second largest, and they've drained some water out recently, so it looks different from the space angle. That's about 100 miles south of Ararat. Now, in the 1st century, Josephus writes that there was a queen, and she was a widow, and her kingdom was that area between those 2 bitter seas, the northern part of her kingdom. She and her son brought grain during the famine that is prophesied by Agabus in the book of Acts, and they brought grain down to Jerusalem. The Jews loved her, and they allowed her to build a palace in the old city of Jerusalem. Her name is Queen Helena, and she is buried on the Mount of Olives. Josephus is writing about these events, and as sort of as a side note, in the life of Flavius Josephus, he in History of the Jews, he says, her kingdom is where that ark, where Noah survived the deluge, is still visible today and is shown to those who desire to see them. Now, he wasn't writing that to tell us that's where Noah's Ark was, but he just did that as a side note. And that is 100 miles south between those 2 bitter seas, just as this document suggests. There are other ancient documents that suggest that general area. In the ancient world, people weren't the way they are today, where they sought adventure by climbing mountains. Mountains were seen as, why would you do that when you've got all this other work to do to keep yourselves alive? So these kinds of things were not, you wouldn't go up to the peak of Ararat or something like that. But yet it's still in the prominence of Ararat. I live currently about 60 miles from Mount Hood in Oregon, and it looks like it's just very, very close, and that I could just, and it's only 11,000 feet above sea level. And so when you look at the prominence of Mount Ararat, you're still within, you look and what's the most large thing you see is Mount Ararat. So it would make sense that that is probably the area. Now, would those still be visible today? It's surprising to me that they were visible in Josephus' days, because they would have been probably over 2,500 years old. Noah was instructed to pitch the wood inside and out with pitch, which may have preserved the wood a little bit longer. However, I don't know that they would still be visible today. It looks like time would have caught up to it at some point where it would have deteriorated. So that's what the ancient documents say when people are telling you they found things that are Noah's Ark on Mount Ararat. Keep these things in mind, because the ancient documents say something different. And why would people say, I have found Noah's Ark? Well, they're getting contributions to go and look for Noah's Ark, so they're wanting to get more contributions to be able to continue to do that. So it would make sense that they're going to find something that they think resembles Noah's Ark.